What else in 6?
So how would you answer the question, how would you compute the beta of 5 stock portfolio? It's like more theoretical, right? No.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll go down those questions. That is a hell of a question, by the way. I hope you understand that. Actually, it's a 2-word answer. Any other questions? We'll get there. Any other questions on Chapter 6? We all right here? Sure. Let's go through the very quickly the takeaways. Look at Chapter 1's takeaways, and I hope somebody has them with you because I don't. Is there anything in there that we did not already cover or that provides you with a level of heartburn you think you shouldn't be provided with?
Martha shouldn't have lied. What is that?
Ah. Who's Martha, you suppose?
Martha Stewart.
Yeah, right. We talked in here about Martha, didn't we? Yeah. Everybody thinks that Martha got clipped on an insider trading charge. Martha got clipped because she didn't lie once to the federal authorities, including the FBI, but twice. Don't do that. Okay, you know, it's if you want to tell somebody a tale, go on Oprah or something. Don't lie to the feds. And that's exactly what she was actually brought up on obstruction of justice charges. Ended up at, remember the name of the prison in West Virginia, Camp Cupcake, because it's at such a low level. The thing that amazed me, 2 things about that: Martha Stewart has got to be the only person who arrived at Camp Cupcake prison in her own jet. That just cannot have happened too many other times, I would think. And how many of you are aware of the fact that inside the camp they did a Christmas decorating competition? Her team did not win.
Nice.
Much to her chagrin. I mean, that's got to be embarrassing if you can't beat a group of people in prison. Of course, she probably claimed the budget was rather limited, but at any rate, that's what Martha shouldn't have lied is all about. I had forgotten that was still in there. Anything else in Chapter 1 that doesn't look like anything we've done? Again, this is the time, folks. You got 72 hours to get over this if you haven't got it. So, yeah, go ahead.
That our markets consider to be weak form and semi-strong form.
I must have put 1 and 2 together.
Yes.
Did I? Okay. Yeah, they are considered to be weak form efficient, right? You're not likely to be able to earn an abnormal return on past data. It's already in there. And the same thing applies to public data. Anything that becomes public has a tendency to be reflected in market prices so quickly, given the number of people that cover things. Particularly if you're a GE. I mean, there are 15 or 20 top-notch analysts covering GE, and you know they get information and trade with such massive portfolios so quickly that new information has a tendency to be reflected in stock prices long before you and I would ever have a chance to really make a significant profit. If you are in the possession of material, inside, private, asymmetrical, whatever you want to call it, information, the abnormal profits that you can return or you can earn, by the way, are legendary. I mean, they're also illegal. They get you to the big house. Back to Martha. The case that Martha was involved with was a company called ImClone. And ImClone, we talked about this, developed a drug called Erbitux, which they were trying to take through phase 1, 2, and 3 trials, which, by the way, can cost hundreds of millions of dollars if you're not aware of that, to get a drug through some of the clinical trials. You're nodding over there, and I'm sure you've been through this. Erbitux was not doing well in a phase 3 trial. You know, the trials are basically, okay, this thing does something, it doesn't kill anybody, and now let's go and see if with a large sample of people it actually is worth us approving, us being the FDA, to put out on the street. And the FDA's record, as you may know, is not flawless in this stuff, right? How many of you are familiar with FIN625? What was FIN625 used for?
Weight loss.
It was a combination of 2 drugs that were supposed to aid people weight loss. One of them turned out to have significant negative impact on people's hearts, okay, which is why it was dropped, and lawsuits ensued, and a lot of the lawsuit activity was actually here. We have 3 attorneys now, I think, that are about 2 that are in jail, Shirley Cunningham and Bill Gallion, and the third guy, for sales, Call the Man were his ads, Melbourne Mills. How many of you are familiar, and they should be familiar with Shirley Cunningham and Bill Gallion? because they're hooked up here with this Chesley character in Cincinnati, Chesney or Chesley?
Chesley.
Yeah, and he may end up having major problems out of this as well, but can you imagine this? Shirley Cunningham and Gallagher are found guilty, and they're in jail for a long time, of stealing money basically from their clients in this FIN625 settlement. Melbourne Mills was found not guilty. How many of you remember why he was found not guilty? One of you. Kurt, why was he found not guilty?
He was too drunk to have known what he was doing.
No, this guy apparently started knocking down Woodford Reserve at 10 o'clock in the morning. Literally, the jury figured and was convinced by Melbourne Mills' attorney that he was so drunk so much of the time that he couldn't possibly have formulated any evil plan that Shirley Cunningham and Bill Gallagher did, and he was acquitted. I think that's remarkable. I think that's absolutely
So if you're gonna do
mind-boggling.
something wrong,
Just stay shit-faced all the time, and you're good to go, apparently. Oh, what a trial, what a trial. But anyhow, that was the problem. How many of you are familiar with the drug Vioxx? Well, many of you may not be familiar with it because it's no longer available. Okay, and it's interesting, it's a drug that is chemically very similar to Celebrex, but Vioxx also had presented cardiac problems. That Celebrex, in spite of the fact they're referred to as COX-2 inhibitors, which is a thing called cyclooxygenase. You can tell I take chemistry classes in my spare time, can't you? That is actually, it was supposed to be able to treat very high levels of pain without ripping a hole in your stomach, was the whole idea here. And the two drugs are very, very similar, but Vioxx had major cardiac problems that Celebrex does not. I mean, which is interesting. But Vioxx, all of these were approved by the FDA, right? And Vioxx had to be yanked off the market. Fen-phen combinations. Now, both of the two drugs that are part of fen-phen are still available, but you can't take them together. Taken separately, they're fine. Taken together, where unfortunately the most impact was felt in terms of weight loss, they've turned out to be very lethal. So the fact that the FDA has approved something is not a stamp of approval necessarily. But back to just very quickly, Imclone. This drug was not doing well through these trials. Martha found out about it about fifth hand. But Sam Waxel, who was the head of Imclone, found out about it firsthand and traded a huge number of shares. Sam Waxel did indeed go to jail for insider trading. The interesting thing is, I think it's Bristol Myers Squibb, but don't hold me to that, took over the rights to Erbitux, took it through the phase 3 trial correctly because they had enough money to do it, whereas Imclone was, skirting corners and things like that. My wife runs an outpatient chemotherapy clinic, and Erbitux is one of her favorite drugs. That drug is now one of the most popular chemotherapy agents on the planet. And had the people at Imclone been able to take it through the trials, in a way that would have shown that, none of this would have ever happened. By the way, Martha, her activity saved her somewhere under $500,000. When she went to jail, the value of her share of Martha Stewart Omnivision fell $300 million. I don't know how many of you remember that. It went from roughly $1 billion down to $700 million because they thought without Martha involved on a day-to-day basis, this media company was going to go to hell in a handbasket. You talk about an expensive ruse. It was. Anyhow, anything else in one in the takeaways? You okay there? How about two? Well, two's there. How about three? Again, there shouldn't really be by now, but if there are, let's get them out the table. What was your major at Dayton again? It wasn't business, right? Mm-hmm. Did you ever attend the RISE conference there? RASC? Yeah. Those guys, that is an amazing conference. They get people in there, a slew of people in there that you just couldn't get together. I mean, if you had to buy a ticket to hear them speak, it would be thousands of dollars, and yet University of Dayton has been able to get these guys to come and talk to students for free for years. How many of you are familiar with the RISE conference, RISE, at Dayton? It is the single best group of speakers in the financial area that I think has probably ever been assembled at one time, and it's free to students from all over the region. It is absolutely remarkable.
I was big on student government there, so we helped plan some of it, and it's so funny just sitting in on like the Alumni Association and the board of UD, and there's like, oh yeah, I'll just call up my buddy who's the director of the SEC, and he'll.
Yeah. Oh, the people they get. I mean, they had Bob Dahl there one day, who one of these who was the head of all of Merrill Lynch's wealth management